This might surprise you that somebody's happy about going to jail. My name is Darren Woodfork. I'm an attorney here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And years ago, I was a public defender here in Arizona, and I represented, thousands of guys charged with crimes and things like that. And one of the things that kind of surprised me, but then it kind of makes sense, is that people want to be heard. They want to have their story heard. They want to give their side of the story, and how that happened, or how that a good example of that, I should say, is that I remember I was representing a guy who got in a fight at a bar and went outside to his truck, got his gun, and shot at the guys he was fighting at 10 times essentially. Didn't hit them or didn't injure them, and he was charged with, obviously, assault with a deadly weapon. He wasn't charged with attempted murder, but he was charged with assault with a deadly weapon. And I remember, we litigated this thing I worked on this case for about a year. And when it was all said and done, I got this guy a plea deal where he did essentially probation. We got the charge dropped down to essentially shooting the gun in the air, like on New Year's or something like that. That was the charge, disorderly conduct. That was the charge that he pled to. Now, him and his family, they said this was all self-defense. He said this was self-defense. He said there was a bunch of guys in the bar who wanted to fight him. That's why he went to the car and got his protection, his weapon. And so he wanted to fight the case on self-defense, but if he would have lost on the assault with a deadly weapon or the ag assault, he would have done easily 10 years, 12 years in prison as a first offender, because of the charge of the dangerous weapon. And so I was telling him that, I was like, well, look, if you go to trial and you lose, you're going to do 10 years in prison. You can take this essentially disorderly conduct plea, shooting the gun in the air, and you'll do 6 months. He'd already done 2 months. He'd do 4 more months. You'll do 6 months on a class 6, one of the lowest felonies here, and you'll be done with this case. Well, he took the plea and was so upset with me. Him, his family, everybody was mad at me because they said that he should have fought the case, went to trial, and presented his self-defense case. I thought, and again, my job was kind of like to save people from themselves. And I thought it was an incredible result of getting this guy, essentially probation with a 6-month jail term. And they were so upset with me because he didn't get on the stand. He didn't do the trial. He didn't defend himself. He didn't give his side of the story. And that happened more times than not when these guys got, fantastic, what we thought were fantastic plea offers, and didn't do any jail time but pled guilty to the felony. But they were mad. And they were mad because they didn't get a chance to tell their story. And the flip side of that is a contrast is I had a guy who did a hand-to-hand sales of crack cocaine to an undercover cop, absolutely no defense to the case. He wanted to go to trial. We went to trial. I forgot, and again, this was probably what I've talked about earlier in one of my other videos. He was looking at, like 18 years in prison, and the plea bargain I think was like 14 years or something like that. So I understood kind of why he wanted to go to trial, but at the same time, he had no defense at all. There was no way to beat the case. But anyways, so we did the trial. He got on the stand. He testified, and then we lost. And then he did 16 and a half years, I think, in prison. But he was fine with it. I mean, ironically, and he was happy with what I did, how I helped him, how I defended him, and it was because he got a chance to say his side of the story and get on the witness stand and testify on his own behalf. And that's why. And that happened again more times than not. The guys who went to trial, testified, lost, went to prison were happier than the guys who took a plea bargain and didn't do any jail time, but felt like they got the wrong side of the deal because they pled guilty and they didn't get a chance to give their side of the story. So anyways, again, I hope that's interesting. I mean, if you're in this situation, if you're a defendant, just remember that your lawyer has defended thousands of guys charged with crimes. This is probably your first or second case involving the justice system. So we're trying to help you, get the best outcome possible for a bad situation. Again, I hope that helps. Again, my name is Darren Woodfork. I'm an attorney here in Scottsdale, Arizona. If you have any questions, please shoot me an email at darronw, that's DERRONW at msn.com. I'd be more than happy to answer any questions for you. Thanks for watching. Take care, and please subscribe. Thanks.